Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to Divinely Guided. Such a joy to share with you, to have this experience together, to co create this, I would say, game changer experience. Because as you learn in this program, we'll learn a new way of living our lives, not from our minds, but from alignment with our higher self, with our guides, with the part of us who already knows our highest timeline, our most aligned path in life, leading us to our divine destiny, to our highest potential. And it's a journey that it's very counterintuitive because we are so accustomed to living our lives from the mind, taking decisions from logic, from the old paradigms. So in this program, I'm sure it will be at least it will bring you a different perspective of how to live life, how to take aligned action, because it's not only about receiving the messages, but it's also, right, putting them into practice. That's the most important part. But in this program, we'll have two sessions. First one will be more on the theory part, because it's important for you to understand also the principles around this uh, concept of developing our intuition and living in alignment. And then in the second part, we'll do the practical aspects of it, like the techniques, how it actually works, how to align with our higher self, with the guidance, with the intuition, and actually receive those messages and translate them into tangible messages, because you'll see our spirit doesn't, higher self doesn't communicate in the same way in English or whatever your native language is, but it communicates through energy and through symbols, through a higher dimension messages, language, which needs to be interpreted in a way that our mind understands it. So welcome to this amazing journey. It will be very concise. I'll guide you through. So it's a very practical program. Please bear in mind that you have the workbook also, which is an integral part of this transformation, which I invite you to go through it, to study it, because you'll have also a lot of additional information there. But of course, here we'll focus more on the practical aspects of actually the meditations. We'll guide you through some different techniques in order to align with you with the guidance, and then how to translate that. So we'll learn, actually it's a three-step process, because I like to put things into structure so that the mind also understands how it works. Many of you are already intuitive, right? So you don't necessarily need a process. It just comes, but the process helps us to access our intuition and the guidance when needed. Like, I want it now, give it to me, right? Otherwise, it might, if you do it just like this in a flowy way, it might not serve you as much when you give it a process, a structure to capture that information whenever you need it. But let's start with the beginning. And I have also some slides which will make it more concise, because when we're speaking of these high concepts, right, it's important also to ground it. So that's why I don't usually use slides, but for this occasion, I feel it's important to give us a more structured approach. So let's take a deep breath together and just sink in into the body, into the present moment. Relaxing the body, letting go of all the tension. And we're going to begin shortly with the intention for this training, this experience to be for your highest good, for the highest good of all, to learn a new way of living our life and guiding our soul mission. Because you'll see, we're going to realize that we can use this process for all areas of our lives. So we can begin. Okay, I hope you can see the presentation. So, how do we create a life and business that is in partnership with your higher self, to trust the inner guidance and create your life from alignment, not from the mind, right? Because as I was sharing before, the mind, it's a wonderful tool, but it keeps us in a box. It keeps us stuck to the past, to the old identity, to what is known, to what we stored there and in our subconscious. So we're repeating the old patterns. But most of the time, our soul invites us to live our divine destiny, the life that we are meant to live, and that is not usually based on our past, because the past comes with a lot of conditioning, with a lot of trauma, with a lot of compensating mechanisms that we developed, the ego identity, and that actually keeps us stuck in the matrix, in the old identity, and doesn't allow us to live the life we came here to live and embody, to fulfill our soul mission, to live our divine destiny, to unlock the possibilities, the abundance, the flow, the relationships that we're meant to live, our divine relationships. But the thing is that our higher self sees this path, our divine destiny, and invites us there constantly. And it's a we'll learn how to unlock it, how to understand, how to follow the higher self. But just imagine that your higher self is this higher aspect of you. It is you, is not separate from you, but it's a expansion of, because part of your soul, which is immense, right, doesn't live only in this body. A part of you lives in the body and is connected to this realm, but there's also a higher aspect of you which is outside of the body. It's living beyond time and space and is connected to source, to higher intelligence, to the universal mind, to all possibility, because this realm, the 3D reality, is such a small part of reality, less than 1% we can perceive with the senses and translate with the mind. So we're missing out on so much if we're living from the mind. And we've been conditioned to live this way for millennia, right? But now, with the awakening, with the rising in consciousness, the energy that are coming, more and more people are awakening to this truth, to this realization, to this remembering, because it's not something new. It's the way we're meant to live life, actually, from the higher perspective, from the higher dimensions. And our higher self guides us in this way. But we need to let go of the old conditioning, how we were used to live life in a logical, linear way, and live more from alignment that creates flow, purpose, synchronicities, a life of miracles, which is for the mind miracles, but this is actually how life actually works. So there are two primary areas where our higher self guides us, and how it feels, right? It guides us to follow our highest excitement. That's our purpose, our soul vision, our divine destiny. But it guides us also moment by moment, especially when we are faced with a decision. And that is actually all the time, right? We have the free will either to follow the path that is most aligned with us, or we can choose from fear, from scarcity, from the lower identity. So we have the free will to either choose alignment or to choose safety or comfort. So in these moments actually are the moments that define our destiny. It's not set in stone, but there is an invitation. And when we choose with our free will the higher self invitation, the path that is most aligned, our higher timeline, then everything falls into place. The abundance, the joy, the fulfillment, the relationship, all of it, it's already done for you. It's pre-existent on this path that your higher self is inviting you. Otherwise, we're trying to figure everything with the mind, and it's so hard. We have to try to control. We're stressing, we're struggling, right? So it's a totally different way of living life from alignment, from surrender, but using, of course, our will, our power, our energy, directing them to this journey. So for me, this changed everything because I used to be a very logical person. My background is in finance, in investments. Also, my uh, 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 bachelor's degree in economics. I did a master's in US on investments. I even started on a PhD on in finance and investments. So a lot of left brain conditioning, which is very useful actually because it helps me to structure things, to put things into frameworks. So the mind, it's a very useful tool, but when it's in service to our higher self, to our vision, and not the other way around. When the mind is ruling, it's in control, it's a total disaster because it doesn't take us to the life we're meant to live. It tries to keep us safe and protected and live a life that it's boxed, right? So through all my life, if I look back, the higher self was guiding me step by step for each stage. Like even when wanting to go to Bali, the mind would say things like, "But how will you do with the finances?" and so on. A lot of excuses, but I followed the guidance, and so much opened up, a lot of freedom and relationships and everything. Also, when I was in taking a big decision whether to stay in a relationship which had plus and minuses, but it was like the mind was analyzing, it didn't know what to decide. So I asked for higher guidance, and the guidance was very clear to end it. And looking back, that was the best decision because it didn't allow me to become the best version of myself and to dedicate myself to my mission. And in every area, especially in building your soul mission and the business and the offerings you're here to create, they're not going to come through your mind or from your mind. It will flow through your mind, but as a guidance, right? Like every aligned decision is changing our lives if we follow the guidance. So we're not here to figure everything out, but listen to the science, to the guidance, and we're going to explore how we do that practically. So there are two types of consciousness, way of living, making decisions, and so on. The one is the reactive consciousness, which I was sharing, is from the mind, is from the ego. And it's trying to figure things out using logic based on the past to force results, being attached to making it work, and so on in the old way. But there's also the creative consciousness, which is collaborating, co-creating with the higher self, with the universe, being open to inspiration, to genius ideas, to miracles, to what we don't know yet. Because when we are in the mind, in the reactive, and things come and we try to solve problems, we're doing it in a much limited way. For example, I was trying to make a workshop, for this new project, but I was doing it in the old way, how I used to do it, how it used to work, and it was keeping me so limited. And when I let it go, I just said, I don't know how to do it. You teach me, God, universe, higher self. And when I surrendered that, knowing how to do it, a lot of intuitive, amazing, genius ideas came to me, like contact this person, make it this way, make it more playful, creative. So when we think we know how to do it, we limit our imagination and creative possibilities so much when we just listen, right? The creativity doesn't come when we force it. It comes when we relax. And it's very important, it's related, of course, to the nervous system, because when we are reactive, our nervous system actually is dysregulated. We are on stress or fight or flight, trying to solve things, to be safe, and so on. But when we relax, we let go of the need to figure things out, our system relaxes, and we open actually to higher consciousness, right? To alpha, theta, and so on. And our mind, it's opening up, our awareness, it's opening up to more possibilities. We're accessing actually the superconscious level rather than taking the information from the subconscious or conscious, right? So we're opening to the universal mind, which is the space of all possibilities, to the quantum field where all possibilities actually pre-exist. And we're choosing the one that is aligned with our highest path. So before we go into the technique, which is, I told you, it's a 3-step process, and I'm sure it will help you and serve you greatly that it's structured in this way, because you can return to it all the time. I want to talk first about 2 core principles that will help you in this work, in this way of living life in divine guidance. The first one, it's inner sovereignty. And it's so important because um, we tend to give our power away, especially in the spirituality realm, right? We are uh, so much accustomed to. Um, just a moment, I want to check something. Uh, okay, yeah, sorry about that. Can continue. Um, where a lot of New Age spirituality is teaching us to um, give our power away to crystals, to astrology, to a lot of readings, to guides. So what that means is that it gives our power away to external things. What do I need to do? What is my next step? And the fundamental place, not only in this program, but in your whole life, it's the inner sovereignty. For me, this was so important because I used to give my power so much to things, also seeking validation and so on. But we have all the answers within ourselves. There's nothing outside of us. And even the world that we see through the senses, it's actually a reflection of our inner world. So we have all the answers within. We don't need to outsource to anything or to anyone because there's a high cost for that. Even if some, let's say, spiritual guides can help us and might seem helpful, it creates a codependent relationship where we become dependent on that and we give our power away. Instead of living from inner sovereignty, our higher self, it's us, is not outsourcing outside. It's a higher aspect of us living at a higher frequency that we have access directly and can bring us all the information, all the resources we need. So it's not outsourcing our authority, but keeping it inside. And it's such an important mindset and principle to live our lives from. So I hope it makes sense. It's more developed in the workbook if you want to read more about this. And we have a lot of other modules in the academy where we go through the other components, the other pillars, right, of the temple in order to fulfill our soul vision. But I want you to remember this. Just even when we are uh, asking for the guidance, to remember it's from within, it's not from outside. And the other principle, of course, it's a matter of frequency, because we're not going to receive the guidance from the same level of awareness we are currently at, right? As Einstein was saying, the solution is not going to come from the same level of consciousness, right? So first of all, we need to work with all areas of our lives to help us raise our frequency, meaning the environment we're in, the energy, right? The body, the food that we eat, because all of this can either raise our frequency or lower our frequency. So when our frequency is lower, then there's a big gap between where we are frequently and in terms of frequency and where is the frequency of our higher self. So that gap needs to be smaller and smaller in order to hear, to listen, to receive the guidance, the messages. Otherwise, if the gap is too high, we're not gonna hear it. We're not gonna understand it, right? So this is a inner work that is done all the time, day by day, to take care of the environment, the space, to purify the space we live in, right? Our energy, to purify our subtle bodies. It's also very important because it's if we have a lot of trauma and blocks through the channel, which is the main channel, actually it's the channel through which guidance, information, energy comes to us. So especially the higher chakras, right? The crown, the ajna, and the throat are the ones important for receiving the guidance, and also the heart to be open, to be in connection. But also the lower chakras can have an influence, especially when embodying the guidance. But the higher chakras, of course, are the more important in receiving the information and aligning to the higher self and receiving the guidance. The lower ones are important for embodiment, which is we'll talk about in a different module, which is actually the whole journey. It's a journey of embodiment. In this program, we're specifically focusing on getting the alignment in receiving the guidance, but then, of course, it's a process of embodiment. And of course, presence is the foundation, coming back uh, to this moment, coming back to the body, grounding ourselves, getting out of the world of the mind, of the ego, is the first step, which we're going to discuss in a moment. So remember these two principles, which are foundational. So this is the three-step technique I was telling you about. And you can write it down. You have also in the workbook explanations for everything. So the first step is alignment. Align with your higher self. As I was sharing, to close the frequency, the energetic gap. Otherwise, nothing is, we're not going to receive anything, right? So alignment, closing the gap. That means rising our frequency, because the higher self is not going to lower its frequency to where we are. We need to raise to where it is. Then it's asking and receiving. Ask and it shall be given, right? So when we are in this space beyond the mind, we bring the question, the intention. What are we here to receive guidance for? And then we listen, we receive. It's so important, and we're not so accustomed to receiving because we tend to think, to try to think or figure things out. The receiving, it's a total process of surrender, of letting go, of the mind trying to know, to understand, and we'll guide you through how we do that. And then the third step is translating the information, because what we receive is not going to be in English more often than not, or in how we used to understand uh, language, right? It might come through a symbol, through a word, it might come through an image, through a feeling. We'll dig deeper into that, how it feels. So the first step, as I was sharing, it's to enter into the miracle zone, I call it, or the quantum field, right? But the first step to the first step is to let go of the mind, let go of the need to know, to understand, to solve, to figure things out, because this is what is keeping us in the mind. And then come back to the presence, the present moment. And from there, connect to the higher frequency, to the higher self, right? So I will guide you. We will do 3 exercises for step 1 to alignment in the second part where we do the practical aspect. I will guide you step by step, so you'll see which one resonates more with you, and it's your preferred method for alignment. Then step 2 is, as I was sharing, ask and receive. So you just ask the question, but then just observe. Don't think, don't try to figure out. And you'll see in this field, you receive information through whatever means. It might be through images, symbols, feelings, words, synchronicities. It might not come at that moment, might come later in a dream or in a book or in with someone speaking. Many times is that I hear, for example, a recent guiding session, I received a bridge and I didn't know exactly what it means, right? Regarding the how do I connect to my solo line clients. I received a bridge. I didn't know what it means, but then what happened was in a workshop I was in a training I was watching. Actually, I received the email first from somebody I follow, and she was speaking about the bridge. And I looked there, I saw the training, and it made perfect sense how we bridge that, and it actually answered my question. So the sessions will be different each time, how it appears, but step by step and with practice, you'll learn how higher self communicates to you. You'll develop a relationship, and the more you listen and the more you implement, you develop that relationship. And it will be much faster, it will be more automatic. Whenever you need it, you have access to this space and to this frequency. And actually, the more you embody, the more your frequency rises and the gap closes more and more until you actually embody your higher self. You become it. So this is actually the purpose of your life. At least I know for me, this is the actually the true purpose of spiritual growth. It's embodying our highest version of ourselves, our highest self, right? This is how we actually ascend in frequency, but we descend, meaning bringing that frequency into the body, into the cells, into physical form. So everybody has a unique channel, and for you, it will be unique than anybody else, and you'll figure it out how it is, either through, right, clairvoyance, clairaudition, feeling, um, and just or symbols outside, uh, and you'll know, right? It's not a standard technique. What we're speaking here, it's general principles, but then you'll figure it out on yourself when we do the practices. And third step, of course, is translate. So that bridge, um, it's been translated through outside message, right? But most of the time, for example, one technique that I found most useful is the automatic writing, which I'll guide you through. But for example, it appears lotus flower or a sun, the symbol, but then you just express what does that mean for the specific. It means to broadcast more, to right? But so the translation, it comes, you just express it, what it means, and you'll know what it means for you specifically in that situation. And with the automatic writing, I found the most useful practice to translate, because you already know, but when you write and you explain, you translate that, it will make much more sense. So I'm looking forward for our practice session, because that will it's where we'll land everything much deeper for you. I hope this introductory session, the theory made sense for you, at least to some degree. And in the next session, we're going to go to the practical aspect, to move into um, the most important thing, right? Which is the practice, because without practice, nothing changes, right? Even if we know, we learn all the information, the magic is in the practice. So I'll see you in the next session. Make sure to read also the workbook to get the foundation for this, and I'll see you